everybody. A very cool welcome to the room, but hopefully over the next couple of hours it will warm up a little bit. So I am Councillor Richard Darrington, Chairman of the committee, and I would like to welcome you to this meeting of the Children's and Family Select Committee that is being broadcast live and recorded for publication. So item number 1 on the agenda is the minutes. Could I ask the committee to approve the minutes of the last meeting with a show of hands, please? Super. Item number 2, apologies for absence. James, do we have any apologies, please?
Okay, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Christopher Adegoke for illness reasons, and we've got apologies from Councillor John O'Lee for other reasons, and apologies for Councillor Harry for illness reasons. So as substitutes, we have Councillor Jonathan Wheeler today, and we also have Councillor Keith Gurley. And we also have Councillor Richard Dodd. Russell Dodd. Sorry, Councillor Dodd. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman. Can I ask people to speak up a little bit? I'm struggling to hear what's being said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Item number 3, declarations of interest. If any councillor or officer has an interest in any matter on the agenda, you should declare it now. Please raise your hand now if you have an interest to declare. If you have an interest to declare, you should state what type of interest it is and give brief details. Lovely. So before we go any further, I would like to welcome on board as role of our new executive, Anne Coyle. It is very warmly that we as committee and your new Nottinghamshire family, welcome you, Anne. So item number 4, Nottinghamshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership Annual Report 2024-2025. I'd like to invite Anne Coyle, Executive Director for Children's and Family, to introduce the report.
So thank you very much. I'll just get my paper skills. I was just about to write to Rory if I did that, but so you will have had an opportunity to have read.
Sorry, it must be my hearing. I can't actually hear what's being said, Chairman. I'm not being awkward. I've got them on full and I can't hear anything. So if you could speak up a bit, please, it really helps.
The signing's not good. So.
I'll try my best. I have quite a quiet voice. So very nice to see you all this afternoon. It is just about afternoon. And I'm actually going to let one of my colleagues walk through the safeguarding report. So Amanda, I'll hand to you. Thank you.
Okay, so the report is the Nottinghamshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership Annual Report, which is from 24 to 25. So the report actually talks you through the key achievements that have happened within that partnership over the last year. So it demonstrates the progress under Working Together 2023 and also some of the Families First reforms that we've started to implement in the county. Am I speaking loudly?
I can't hear what you're saying. Just go, carry on.
I can't, please.
I'm not the only one.
I'll shout then. I'll shout.
So
the vision that's been adopted by the partnership is that children and young people in Nottinghamshire grow up safe, stable and happy. Safeguarding arrangements are mature, collaborative and learning focused. The forwards, which are in the report, highlight strong leadership, shared accountability and an evidence-based approach to improvement. The report is structured around 3 partnership commitments to children and families. So commitment 1 is keeping children safe in homes and communities. So the whole system approach to child exploitation, early identification, prevention and disruption. Tackling Child Exploitation Conference in March 2025 showcased lived experience and families' voice. It was a really well attended conference and it was held at police headquarters. It was a really excellent event. Parents and carers are engaged through Not My Shame campaign to reduce stigma. The neglect strategy was refreshed through cross-agency steering group and practitioner research. We've got a relaunch of the neglect toolkit planned. We've got education embedded within the strategic leadership group. The Director of Education is Peter McConaughey, and he's co-opted onto that group. So we have got our 4th safeguarding partner in that meeting, which is really helpful. We have reviewed mental health pathways, and we've got effective links with children and adolescent mental health services and the ICB, and those relationships are maintained. So commitment to right service at the right time. We've had a real focus shift from thinking about thresholds to thinking about needs. So really thinking about what a child and a family needs within our system and how we best meet those needs at the earliest point to make sure that children are getting the right support. And that strengths-based language is used now across all training and guidance. So really starting to focus on getting the right help at the right time. Our pathway to provision is being redesigned with child-centred focus. We've done some of that work, and that was launched in the last year, but that work is ongoing because we recognise that is a really important piece of partnership work that we need to get right to ensure that we get the right children in the right place in the system. Some of you will be familiar with the work that we've been doing around the multi-agency safeguarding hub. There's been a lot of work going on within the multi-agency safeguarding hub, thinking about redesign of that, and that will continue through the Families First transformation, and again, really thinking about enhancing that early help offer. Child protection plans are stable. There are between 32 and 35 per 10,000 children. There's evidence of timely, proportionate decision making within those plans. Strategy discussions remain under review to ensure all children's needs are considered. So commitment 3, listening, learning and improving practice. So we've strengthened participation through the participation network and other forums. We've got a plan for direct safeguarding children partnership-led engagement with children and families. Learning from reviews are tracked thematically, and neglect remains a core theme. So dissemination through learning briefings, newsletters and safeguarding children today happen on a regular basis. So that's the commitments. In terms of learning and reviews, training and workforce, in 24-25, we've completed 4 rapid reviews and 1 local safeguarding practice review. The themes are neglect, premature infants, oversight of special guardianship order arrangements and home conditions. The national panel have endorsed our local learning approach, and learning has been disseminated through briefings, virtual sessions and steering groups. The training programme has included 51 events with 1,985 attendees, 2,149 e-learning completions, despite a 7-month learning and management system gap. So you can hear there's been a lot of training undertaken. So we've got 40 partner trainers and 4 specialist delivered sessions. So there's high satisfaction, particularly for neglect and trauma-informed training. In terms of the next steps, the priorities for 25-26 are further work around the neglect toolkit and our ability to evaluate the impact of that. The work in the MASH, as I've just talked about, in the multi-agency safeguarding hub will continue with the Families First reforms to enhance those early help pathways. We want to strengthen participation and have a trauma-informed culture, refresh independent scrutiny arrangements, as our independent scrutineer is ending his term in office. Not sure if that's the right terminology, but you'll know what I mean. And just in summary, the partnership remains financially secure, collaborative and reform ready, demonstrating consistent progress against all three commitments. So I don't know if anybody wants to ask any questions.
Should we just see Mark?
Yes, yeah. I think if we can go to Dr. Mark Peel, see if you have anything to add, sir.
Yes, please. I'm aware that a couple of members of the panel can't hear very well in the room. Can you hear me speaking remotely?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll try and keep a relatively high volume up. Okay, delighted to be meeting with you all this afternoon, and delighted to be starting off by telling you that from my independent point of view, overall safeguarding is strong and of consistent good quality in Nottinghamshire. That's in no small part down to the officers that you employ within the local authority. So I just wanted to start with a recognition there of the social workers and others who make that true. I need to say something very briefly about what independent scrutiny is, and by implication what it isn't, as I'm aware that there may be some councillors around the table who haven't attended this sort of meeting before. I'm not an employee of the council. I'm fully independent. However, the independent scrutiny role is not one of inspection. You're already inspected by Ofsted. The last thing you need is another person trying to fulfill that role. So really the role is to oversee and try and facilitate how the partnership, the safeguarding partnership, works in the county. And that brings together the three agencies that have and hold statutory responsibility. That's the local authorities, yourselves, but it also includes health and police. So I want to highlight a couple of things that I've seen across the course of the year that lead me to the conclusion that I've started with, to assure you that safeguarding is consistent and relatively strong in Nottinghamshire, because it's based on evidence. It's not just my opinion. So the first thing to talk about is the front door, is the MASH. Around about 2 years ago now, I raised concerns with the safeguarding partnership, asking them how they could assure me that children in need of a safeguarding response weren't inadvertently falling through the net at the front door because of the enormous pressure that was being reported to us at the front door. It was my feeling at that point in time that this wasn't simply a question that could be answered by asking yourselves for more and more resource, but was one which required a fundamental rethinking of how we operated that front door system, which you've just heard Amanda talking about. So I can confirm that there has been a highly effective change of approach at the front door, which I think is using the resources that MASH takes up much more effectively, and leads me to conclude that there is far more limited possibility that children who need support at the front door are falling through that filter. So that's the first thing to talk about. You've heard that one of the themes that has come up in rapid reviews, they are statutory reviews which we submit to the national panel, which need to be completed within 15 working days. A consistent theme, both in the city and the county, has been one of neglect. And it was my contemporary, the independent scrutineer in the city, Steve Edwards, and myself that raised that as a concern, which has led to considerable effort in being put into ensuring that appropriate training is available to all officers who need it. And moreover, that we got feedback from officers from the front line to see how we could improve and in fact reduce, shorten the toolkit we asked them to use around neglect. I can confirm that that has also happened. So there's another level of evidence there. I'll just move on very briefly to talk about the statutory reviews, the rapid reviews that I've already mentioned, and the LCSPRs, which are the sort of more detailed reviews where there's more learning than can be gleaned from a 15-day review. I'll just underscore what Amanda's just told you. It's always good to get response from an independent body like the National Panel, agreeing and underscoring the quality of the rapid reviews that are being completed in Nottinghamshire, completed to time, of good and consistent quality, and where there is need for an LCSPR, a more detailed review of what's happened to be done, those are being commissioned. The mechanism by which those rapid reviews are completed brings together officers from those 3 statutory agencies. It's the engine room, if you like, of the partnership. And the fact that that's working well and that we are getting good quality rapid reviews, I think is also indicative of how well your officers and officers from health and from the police are working together. That particular panel, for example, is chaired by a senior police officer, and that's a really strong optic, I think, of a shared commitment across the partnership to improvement and learning. Over the course of the year, I've independently authored one of the LCSPRs commissioned in the county. Now, the reason I've done that is perhaps I perhaps need to explain, because it is an operational thing that you perhaps wouldn't expect an independent scrutineer to do. Well, what I've found in the past, in other areas where I've been the independent chair and the independent scrutineer, is it's a really good mechanism of getting a really close look at how the partnership's going. It's not just based on what people tell me, it's what I directly observe through being the independent author. There's an opportunity there, I think, for Nottinghamshire to look at how orders called special guardianship orders are utilised within the county, and perhaps also in Derbyshire, because this report was done jointly with Derbyshire. But there's also an opportunity for Nottinghamshire to take a national lead, I think, in looking again at special guardianship orders, which are relatively new orders, in the first instance introduced primarily for older children, so adolescents plus, for whom finding adoptive placements was proving to be very difficult indeed, as you will be well aware. Special guardianship orders were never intended in the first instance to be used with much younger children, and particularly babies, toddlers, and very young children. But they are now nationally being used with much younger children. And there's an opportunity for Nottinghamshire, I think, to take a lead in firstly showing good practice around how those orders are used, but also requesting through the national panel, but this is pending approval by the executive within the safeguarding partnership. So it's not my decision, it requires their sign off on this, but it's my opinion that there's an opportunity for Nottinghamshire to take a national lead with that. Just 2 or 3 other things very briefly and I'll shut up. Sorry to take so much of your time. I would echo the fact that the training offer within Nottinghamshire around safeguarding is exceptional. It's a word I would not use lightly. It's very well evaluated, it's very consistent, and it is very closely connected to the rapid reviews that we do. So what we learn when things go wrong for children and young people in Nottinghamshire is quickly translated into training which your officers do, which in turn improves the services they offer to other young people in Nottinghamshire. So that's, I think, something to be really celebrated in Nottinghamshire. I've got form as far as safeguarding is concerned, having been around for about 45 years. The training officer offer in Nottinghamshire is the best I've seen. You perhaps need to hear that from me. Two other things. There's been a real strategic strength in the partnership over the course of the last year, But of course, there's been considerable change. So we started this meeting with a very warm welcome to Anne Coyle as the new DCS. But I just want to take a retrospective look at how strong strategically the partnership's been under the auspice of Anne's predecessor. And again, I can say to you that the inclusion on the strategic panel of Assistant Chief Constable Rob Griffin was a major move forward in terms of bringing the police voice at a very high rank to the table, and that senior leadership group is working extremely effectively. Clearly, with the changes that I've just mentioned, there's some opportunity for improvement, but change itself sometimes can be a cause of some anxiety. I think there is now an opportunity to reset the safeguarding agenda in Nottinghamshire. I'm standing down as independent scrutineer at the end of January after 2 terms, 6 years of working for Nottinghamshire 36 days a year. It's my feeling that being an independent scrutineer has a shelf life, and the degree to which you can actually and honestly say that you are truly independent diminishes over time as you work with people, as they become your colleagues, and perhaps you don't question things in the way that you would have done initially. So I do see this being a period of change going forward, but I think it's a change that has enormous opportunities. I'm very well aware of the quality that Anne brings to the table, so I was delighted to hear about her appointment, and an appointment of a new independent scrutineer, hopefully in the early part of 2026, will mean that somebody with new enthusiasm, a new perspective, and someone who'll question all of the stuff I've just told you and make sure that they get a good appraisal from their own perspective is going to be very important. So I'll finish where I started, councillors, and that's by, on the basis of the brief data that I presented you with this afternoon, of concluding that overall safeguarding in Nottinghamshire is consistent, it's strong, and that's largely as a result of the efforts of your officers. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Creel. Before I invite Rory, Councillor Rory Green, to have a little say, could we just put the mobile phone on silent, please? Because I don't know where it's coming from, but just have a little check if it's either that or my tinnitus is playing up. So just for a second, that would be lovely if you could. So I'd like to ask Rory.
No one had any questions.
Any questions?
Sure.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry, Darry, Councillor Darrington. I was just going to put his desk, that was all.
sorry.
I didn't know if someone had a question. They didn't.
Oh no, we're going to do the questions.
Yeah. So is it all right if I say
Yes,
something?
yes, please. Yes, yeah.
Sorry. I need to clean my ears now. No, it's just an absolute delight to read through this. And actually, Dr. Peel, I never knew of your existence, which is the beauty coming new into local authority. But yeah, I was particularly pleased with all of your scrutiny. And I actually, I thank you for your honesty as well about the sense of being independent and having that shelf life. I think that's crucial to bring in fresh eyes and ears to protection of the children that they deserve. But thank you for all of your efforts over the last 6 years. I think we really appreciate that. It's unsung work that I think is vital for us to keep shaping the improvement. I thank you for your suggestion about resetting the agenda for safeguarding for children in the county. I think we'll have some good discussions strategically about what that looks like. So we may want to pick your brains before you leave, but thank you for all you've done.
My pleasure.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Green. Okay, so I'm going to look to move the recommendations as detailed on the report and seek a seconder.
I'll second that report.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Dodd. Okay, I'm now going to open the floor up for any debate. Lovely, Councillor Saddington.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the independent scrutineer who is signing off in January. And I'd like to thank you on behalf of our group for the input you had when we were in the administration up until May of this year. So thank you for everything you have put towards this committee, and best wishes for your future. I think this is a very important report because we hear so much about safeguarding throughout the country. Fortunately, it's not about us, but it's about others. And I think it always sends a shiver down your spine when you hear anything untoward. I have to say this is an excellent report, but most of it is built upon our administration, which finished in May. So thank you to the officers there for your input. We do recognise the importance of child protection, and I would ask the current administration that you continue with these excellent results and also measure the impact of what you do, so that next time we have a report, we've got a comparison to this report and your report. So thank you very much. We'd like to know exactly what impact you have on the committee, because as the scrutineer said, there's lots to do, there's changes to be made, and when you make changes, let's have a look at them and see how they're impacting, particularly on the children that we are the corporate parents for. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sellington. Councillor Rich, where are we? Somewhere down here?
Here's my question. So the Ofsted and CQC report found that while the partnership has taken effect, actions overview the annual review of the EHC plan for most children and young people are not timely. This is confirmed by the department owns data showing that only 41.6% of reviews were completed in the timely scale in the first half of 2025. Given this statutory duty, is a specific and urgent action and has been taken to rectify the significant failings.
Is that for himself or for Councillor John?
The question is for, yeah, I think that's a question.
That's the question.
For the next report.
But is it for the next report?
Yeah.
Or are they wrote one? But I'm sure it's the. I'm sure we're in the wrong.
Okay. Councillor Cullen.
Okay. I don't think you'll have any trouble hearing me.
No, I can hear.
On page 25, there have been 4 rapid reviews within the reporting period. The 15 days timescale was not met for these reviews. And I wrote, well, how long did it take then? If it didn't take 15 days, how long did it take? Did it take 16 days or 50 days? So I'd like to know that. I also noticed that on page 29, it says priorities for 2024-25 on mine. And I thought, that's a bit late because we're already in 2025. Surely that should say 2025-2026, I wondered though, or are they all priorities? I'm probably going to say this in every meeting I'm ever at while I'm on this county council, which could be for several years. But I also note from this report, and I appreciate the voluntary sector does not have any statutory duty to safeguard, but we have a very big workforce of voluntary sector people who work with children in this county. And I've been at many MASH meetings with young people. My staff at work are often, and it makes no mention of the voluntary sector as partners in safeguarding, and I don't know if that's on purpose. I've wondered this for years, so this is my first chance to ask this actually in an actual meeting. I don't know if that's on purpose or if it's just that the county council just doesn't realise that there's a vast workforce of people working with children that don't get offered the training as an also ran and don't get involved in many of the reviews. I just wondered if that's on purpose or by accident or just a lack of understanding. That's my questions.
Okay, super.
And to anybody that knows how to answer them is my questions.
To anybody, okay.
I think
First question.
Hayley.
Dr. Peel. Okay, Dr. Peel.
Sorry, can I just backtrack to a previous question around the timeliness of completion of reviews that was remarked in, I think, the Ofsted report. I just want to set the context to you. That's endemic. It's endemic across the country. That doesn't give you an explanation as to what's being done in Nottinghamshire, but I just wanted to make sure that you are aware as councillors that that is not something specific to Nottinghamshire. It seems to be a problem across the country as a whole, and it is no worse in Nottinghamshire than it would be in our statistical comparators. Can I address the question about completion of rapid reviews in more than 15 days? I can't give you the exact number of days for all of the rapid reviews that are in front of you, and there may be someone else in the meeting who can do that. But what I can tell you is why sometimes it's necessary to go beyond the 15 days and what the mechanism is for us negotiating that. This process is overseen by a national panel, which I referred to a moment or two ago. And if there are circumstances, so for example, if there are legal issues, which mean we have to wait a little bit before we complete a rapid review, which would impact on the number of days. If the availability of people who can speak to the rapid review is circumscribed perhaps by legal issues, sometimes by their health, that we can wait a little bit. We have to actually alert the National Council, Nottinghamshire have to alert the National Council to that, explain why more than 15 days is required. And whilst it isn't really permission that the National Panel give us, they could certainly give us a very hard time if they thought the reasons we were asking for an extension didn't stack up. So that's the mechanism by which sometimes it takes a little longer than 15 days. I should say that when rapid reviews first came into being, which was following the Wood Review that came into effect in September 2019, I was very concerned that the quality of any review that could be completed in 15 days would necessarily be relatively poor. And I was very nervous that local authorities and partnerships would be making decisions on the basis of partial and inadequate information as a result. So I did a piece of research at that time nationally, looking at 120 rapid reviews completed over the period, not just in Nottinghamshire, of course, but in lots of other authorities as well, looking at the period from 2020 to 2023. And the interesting thing that I found was I was completely wrong. I'm happy to be wrong in this circumstance, in that the quality of rapid reviews is surprisingly high, and the pressure that Alan Wood put on us to complete reviews which previously had taken much longer in this truncated period of time has not, based on the evidence that I looked at, impacted on quality. So again, I'd just like to put that in. And as far as the question about our understanding of the enormous contribution that the voluntary and tertiary sector make to safeguarding. I've been around safeguarding long enough to have been an independent chair, where one of the wonderful things about that was the voluntary sector was very directly involved. Alan Wood, again, referring back to his review, I think wanted to make sure that the principal agencies, health, police and local authority, had a statutory responsibility in relation to safeguarding. That doesn't exclude an appreciation and involvement and understanding of the voluntary sector, but in this particular report, it is a report and a review of the statutory partnership. So it's not, from my perspective, an error of omission that the voluntary sector isn't mentioned. It is that the focus of this work is on the quality and consistency of the statutory partnership, which, as it's defined by government currently, does not involve and include, sadly, the voluntary sector. Thank you.
My mission is it, Phil.
Thank you, Dr. Peel. Councillor Gurley.
Yeah, I can hear myself. Thank you. I'd just like to echo what Councillor Saddington said really about thanking Dr. Peel and officers for putting us in a really good position in terms of being able to be exemplars of safeguarding. And so that's a really strong position to be in effectively, and to not take things for granted and to drive forward. And that's the most important thing, always improve, learn from mistakes, do the training and improve. And I really like the fact that that was the method that we've adopted. And I also like the idea that it's considered a really strong partnership. And I can see why really, because we pay for most of it. So I'd just like to ask some questions on page 32, if I may. I know the City Council are in quite a financial mess all the time. I just wondered why their contribution is so low. When you look at our contribution of 149, nearly 150,000, and theirs is 12,000, nearly 13. So why is that so low? And because I'm not on this committee, so you'll have to forgive me a slide on it. Could you just give me an overview of where the most money is spent? Because obviously we have areas within Nottinghamshire and the city where a lot of the concentration for this will go. So I'd just like to have an understanding of that, if I may, and then I might have another question depending on what that answer is, if I could, Chairman. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes.
I'll start, and then I'm going to. It's the Nottinghamshire Safeguarding Children Partnership. So this is just for the county. The contribution that you see there on that page 32 relates to something that the city basically pay us to lead for them. So CDOP, which is the Child Death Overview Panel, is something that we do as a city and county together. We host it and the city contribute towards it, which is why it's included in here. The rest of the activity that's included within this report is all in particular around Nottinghamshire. So the city have their own version of this and are contributing their own amounts completely separately. In terms of the detail of where the money's spent, Hayley, do you want to say a little bit about that? Pays for you, Hayley.
Predominantly, the money is spent on staffing and our training offer. The other thing that we have to spend money on is when we have the reviews that Dr. Peel was talking about, is when we commission the independent reviews, if there's something that we need to look into further as a partnership or if particular themes identified. And then we also input into the child death function, which is what Rachel was talking about there. So the deaths of all children under 18 have to be reviewed. And that's that process that sits within our partnership as a whole. Broadly, that's what we cover as a partnership, those areas.
Okay, if I could just come back slightly then, because if you look at some of the other contributors, like the probation service, I've lost where they are now. I bet they spend more on teas and coffees in a year than they're contributing to this, and it being such an important aspect, particularly what they do. I would have hoped that they'd actually contribute more than £3,500, because as I said, I bet they do spend more on teas and coffees in the year than that. And I just wondered if there's something that we're doing to try and do that, because we've got reorganisation coming up. There'll be some areas where we won't be having the money that we thought we would be getting. So these people are going to have to sort of step up to the plate a bit and contribute more if we can maintain the high standards that we're producing now in terms of child protection. And and I think we need to flag that, Chairman, to say that. Oh, there's not listening. Flag that to say that we need to start negotiating now to say we've got to do better than this, because it is really important. We're putting our money in. We need to start having the others put their money in as well, I suspect. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Peel, did you want to add anything?
Yes, just three small points. Firstly, it's to thank elected members for the money that they put into safeguarding, and to tell you that you get terrific value for money, from my point of view, from your partnership. I perhaps should say to you that the amount of money you are putting into safeguarding has not changed in the last 10 years, and yet costs have gone up very, very directly. So there is evidence, I won't bore you with it this afternoon, of enormously careful use of your money within the partnership, but that wasn't the thrust of the question. It was, if I don't want to put words into your mouth, why are we paying more than other people? It's a legitimate question. Well, I'll refer you to Working Together 2024, which is the sort of safeguarding Bible produced by the government. There is now direction coming from the centre that there should be parity, equality of payment between the three agencies that make up the statutory partnership. Nationally, it is the picture that it is almost universally the case that local authorities pay more into the safeguarding budget than police and health. Working Together 24 is telling us that that's got to be addressed, and our police and health colleagues have got to come up to the plate a little more in terms of making more consistent and more equal payments. And the last thing that I would just put into your ears to show you how you're getting terrific value for your safeguarding pound is to talk about the safeguarding training offer in Nottinghamshire. You've heard me previously describe that as exceptional. It has to be exceptional because it isn't offered free of charge. It's charged. So agencies outside the local authority who take advantage of this exceptional training opportunity pay for it, which tells you that they value, in the real sense of the word, the training that is on offer. And the training money brought in is the mechanism, by and large, I'm simplifying enormously here, that has made good the fact that the overall contribution, welcome as it is from yourselves, that hasn't changed much in the last decade or so, is being supplemented by money that we're making from training. So we are growing our own in that regard. And again, I hope that shows you that your money is being spent carefully and every opportunity is being taken to grow that money where we have the opportunity.
If I could just clarify, Chairman, it wasn't why we're paying more, because I expect that. It's just why aren't others paying more? So it fits in with what you said, to be fair. If that's what the government are trying to push and drive, that others contribute more, that's great, because that's the sort of thing that I suggested that we negotiate and make happen. So I'm really pleased with that. Thank you very much, Doctor.
James McGreevy.
Thank you. So as a member of this committee seconded on or co-opted on from school sector, I just wanted to reiterate the praise for the developing leadership around safeguarding. It's been very much well received in the school sector. It's great to see it in the report and to hear it from the independent scrutineer. My question relates to training, actually, and it's good to hear the quality of training described there. And again, my feedback from the school sector is that training is very, very strong. But I do note that there is a decreasing participation level around training. And given that training is a significant mechanism for dealing with new and emerging threats, which do create that significant risk for our young people, does Dr. Mark or do the officers regard this as a risk that needs looking at and addressing so that we don't have less people attending the training when it is of critical nature?
I'll pick it up if you like. That's a really welcome question. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm particularly pleased to hear such positive feedback from an education representative. It's where children spend the great majority of their time. And it's an element of safeguarding that perhaps sometimes we undervalue, if I can put it that way. Training's also very important within the safeguarding sector as a reflection of turnover. So it's obvious when you think about it, really, isn't it? Staff move on, they get promoted, they move into new jobs. You cannot expect to offer training on one opportunity and that be a sort of magic bullet that completely eradicates the need for that training to continue. Neglect is a good example of one of the areas where Nationally, it seems we need to keep banging that drum in every sense of the word, but particularly through training, to ensure that it doesn't sort of fade away. There's a sort of half-life to how training works. But to answer your question directly, yes, there is some evidence of a decrease in attendance at training, and the only explanation I can give you that I've been able to come to analytically is money's in short supply. So agencies are being more cautious than perhaps they previously have done about who and how many people they send on training courses. You asked a specific question, is that a risk? Well, clearly it is, but it depends how we respond to that. In the past, where that's been the case, and we've had reserves of money, we've offered free places on training courses to sort of make good deficit. And it may be that we need to make creative use of resource in the future in the same sort of way.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stott.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just following on from the training and question, specifically page 27, and we've been talking, well, it talks about the learning management system, and obviously, you know, I appreciate this is this happened under the previous Conservative administration, so I'm aware that we won't have, maybe not, you know, the full history of this, but basically the learning management system was out of commission, and I'm just wanting some explanation as to how something like that would happen, and whether it was possible to foresee, you know, whether it was foreseeable, and could it have been mitigated with a proper transition plan. I noticed from this, sorry, where is it? That, what was it, the figures? There was a lot of, there was a significant decrease in courses that were offered, obviously as a result of this this learning management system being out of action and out of commission. So ultimately, what impact did it have, and could that possibly explain some of the training issues that was mentioned? I don't know who would answer that. Is that sorry? Right. Okay.
Sort of two elements to that then. So to answer your question, it did significantly impact on the training provision that was offered that year. The learning management system is something that the Safeguarding Children Partnership buy from Nottinghamshire County Council. So they host it and we use that part of the system. So in terms of how it could have been mitigated, we were slightly removed as a partnership from that because we were purchasing the new system from the Nottinghamshire County Council. I don't think there's any expectation that it would be down for such a long time. And actually the officers did a quite impressive job of still offering some training and using kind of more old-fashioned ways of doing that, basically through emails and hand bookings of the training. That did impact. I don't think it could have been predicted that it would have been for so long, and we came out of it the best we could, and it's now up and running fully. In terms of the training offer in general, just to sort of add to what Dr. Peel was saying, there's a lot of curiosity at a strategic level. It's been brought to the strategic leadership group to talk about what's happening with partners. I think there's a reflection back to us as a partnership that different agencies are under lots of different individual pressures, and that can impact on staff having the time and freedom to come to some of our training. But we're confident that our offer remains good, and we will continue to be curious and try and explore different ways to sort of meet that need across the partnership.
Thank you.
So just also that we do as a safeguarding partnership, do an annual survey about the quality of safeguarding across all agencies, and they have to put that in. So we were looking at that just on Friday, actually, so that when you have something that looks like the training drops off, right, too quiet for you, I'm so sorry, that the training drops off, that we always have to be curious and make sure that we cover that off when we do our annual survey. So that teaches what you do next.
Thank you. Nigel?
Thank you. I don't know if this is a question for officers or for Dr. Peel. My question is one that I've raised in this forum previously, about a year ago. And it's this: Forgive me if I should know the answer, but to what extent is suicide awareness training strategically built into our safeguarding provision across the county? My own very strong view is that anyone, particularly who's working with teenagers, should have suicide awareness training. My question is, does it feature currently, or is it something that we could work towards?
Okay. To reply on.
Just that I think it's a really good challenge, and I think it's something that we would happily to take away. I think that it's a really big issue in our society these days. So I accept the challenge, and we'll come back to you about the outcome of that, perhaps the next time.
I would be happy to be part of that discussion if you would like. My own experience, and one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this, is when I was a head teacher, I had to deal with the impact of teenage suicide on 3 different occasions. And an awful lot of learning came out of those experiences, which I would love to see used into the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Can I just come in on that, because it's the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what we've done about the children's services, but I do know we've run suicide first aid courses, prevention first aid courses, particularly for those that deal with veterans. So I do know we do it. So we've funded things like that, but I don't know what it is like for children. But having been on that and having lost friends through that, I know how important it is and how valuable it is as training. It really is a valuable course to go on. So I'd recommend, if we do it, and I think we should, that everybody that we can should get on. That's one way people should go on. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Anybody else?
Sorry, Chair. Is it just on that point? Can I just highlight the Not Alone website, which is for children, young people, and adults? There's a wonderful resource. If you just Google Not Alone, and you can go in there as a parent, as a professional, as a child or young person, and get access to really helpful both advice, guidance, but also links to direct support, particularly if it's in relation to mental health, well-being, self-harm or suicide. So just a helpful resource to flag.
So I also think that Peter has been a bit humble in that, because it's done before.
It's award winning. It's now available by podcast. You see it on the bus stops over World Mental Health Day, which was just last week, and it was co-designed with our very own principal educational psychologist, Donna Green. Yeah.
But we totally accept the challenge, and we'll take that away and have a think about what we do as well, maybe.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody else got anything to add? No? Okay, can we ask Martin to summarise, please?
I think it's probably been done for me, because like I say, it's a really good discussion, but I think ultimately the one thing to take away is what we've just been talking about the suicide training across the partnership. So it's really just to agree that information on this is included in the annual report when we take it on next time. I'm sure, Nigel, if you'd like to have a conversation with Anna outside the meeting, I'm sure she'd welcome that discussion. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. So can I take a vote by show of hands? Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item number 5. Progress in improving the experiences and outcomes for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities update. And may I ask Anne to introduce the report, please?
Yes, no, happy to. I'm going to look at you, Councillor.
I'll try and let read.
The pleasure of having my job is that I've taken over some very talented officers who are sat beside me and partners. So I'm just going to hand straight to Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking up for Councillor Girling, I hope that's helpful. Using my teacher voice, which is great. Don't get to use it very much these days. Thank you. Just reflecting on the last time we sat in this room, which was July 2025, and we had Dame Christine Lenihan, our independent chair of the Send Improvement Board, with us. She talks about the whole system in a wonderful way, and it was really helpful to have her here on that occasion. Unfortunately, can't be here today, and neither can Rosa Waddingham, our chief nurse. So we've got Georgina Palmer with us, our chair and lead on the our lead for the Parent Carer Forum in Nottinghamshire. When we were last in this room in July, it was a Monday, remember it well, and we talked about an update over the previous period in terms of the Send Improvement activity. One of the things we remarked upon at that point was that Ofsted and the Care Quality Commission were in the building. They were in Nottinghamshire. We'd been waiting some time since the January 2023 inspection in Nottinghamshire by Ofsted and CQC. The inspection team were back. They were here to check the progress that was being made. Was progress being made regarding the priority action areas identified, or was it not? They were here to make that judgment about effective progress or ineffective progress. It was a 3-week inspection activity with 3 days of on-site activity. There was a range of meetings before that select committee day with different partners and a review of data and documentation. And then they were in person across the local area doing a deep dive into all of the work in much greater depth than we'd ever managed to do in a select committee or any of our other forums where we take the SEND improvement activity. So that was a really important moment. Our update now is the update that's come from that inspection report. So we've got the findings. I'm really pleased to say that Ofsted and CQC, through their triangulation, through their deep dive, through checking with partners and the experiences of families, did note that effective action was being taken about both of those priority areas. And if I take you back to what those priority areas were, one was about the identification and assessment and provision to meet the needs of children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities and the oversight of that. And the other one was about delays in health services and therapies and the challenge that caused for children, young people and families. We had that action plan that we developed. We've shared that with committee lots of times, and the incremental steps to address that. It was really pleasing that Ofsted and CQC highlighted some of the positive improvements they've seen in that time. And that was a validation at a point in time that the course we're on is right. It's really important to say that that doesn't mean we're there. SEND and meeting the needs and identifying children and young people to SEND, whether that's in an early years setting in a school, outside in the community, and making the right provision is still something where we need to be focused on continuous improvement. And for lots of families and lots of practitioners, actually, they'll still feel that they're in a place where there's lots of improvement required, and they might not resonate with them. But it was helpful, I think, to the local area to have that almost, yes, you are on the right course, you are taking effective action, and you know what you're doing. The partnership is different, and that was one of the things that came through this inspection. It's a partnership. Dr. Mark Peel was talking about the strength of that safeguarding partnership. Actually, the SEND partnership is a much stronger partnership now than it ever was before in Nottinghamshire. We've got partners who know each other, who share the challenges, who work collectively to make improvements. That includes our parents and carers, and it includes our education leads from both multi-academy trusts, maintained schools and early years and alternative providers. It's across the piece. And it includes our health professionals and our health services. And we meet together regularly, we work to make improvements, and we don't do that in isolation. We try and do that together. Those things were recognised. You'll see those referenced in the monitoring inspection report. The letter is in the pack for you. It talks very clearly about the redesigned governance, the strategic approach to SEND services, to the role of parents and carers, and that strategic relationship with the Parent and Carer Forum, who really do hold the County Council on Health to account. They hold us. There's high challenge. There's also high support, and we see that in our working together. Our much better use of data and availability of data, and using that to actually monitor the progress and to put the support in the right place. And that new approach that we've got around working in a much more locality-based model. I don't know if anyone reads Schools Week. I do. If you read it this morning, there was an article about SEND funding in there. We know that's a pressure everywhere, but it was really, really helpful and positive to see Nottinghamshire named in the article in Schools Week as being a really positive example of cluster funding to meet needs at the local and earliest point in the child and young person's journey. So that's there in a national publication this morning. That's positive, and that's one of the things the government are looking at currently around how to do things differently. That was something that Ofsted and CQC saw when they came to Nottinghamshire. I think it was really clear that we know, because we report on the things like the timescales for assessments. If Dame Christine was here, she would say it's not all about the timescales. It's about meeting the needs of children and young people, and that's about the work we do and partners do. But it's positive to see that the timescales were improving around that statutory 20-week time frame for education, health and care plans. that our plans for when they are produced for children and young people are of a better quality now than they were. There's still variable quality in education, health and care plans. There's still a variable level of information from social care, from health and from education in those plans, but those that are newer are much stronger. And that's the key. So the activity and the improvement activity that's taking place and the multi-agency audits that are taking place are having the right impact. That's the journey that we're on. And that is that bit about, we know where we're going and we're going to keep going there. In terms of the health, so priority action 2, access to health services. Again, CQC, who dived into this in quite some detail, again talked about the governance structures and work streams to be much stronger, to have a grip on those health services, on the waits, on the gaps in services. And there was a really clear joint commissioning strategy that's come before this committee before. It's come to the Health and Wellbeing Board that has targets in it around speech and language, sensory needs, neurodiversity, sleep and occupational therapy services. There's a clear oversight of that families and partners are notified, they're kept informed whilst they're waiting, because we know there's still a great demand in the system. We see that increase. It's well documented in Nottinghamshire, it's well documented nationally, but actually communication, putting children and families at the centre of it and having a good communication, keeping them updated, making sure that people can access support when they need to, is vital, and that's something that we've got in place. And we do recognise that definitely some of those waits are still too long. Neurodiversity assessments, speech and language therapy wait times, they are long, they continue to be long, and the demand has continued to increase. We haven't extended beyond where they were, so despite increases in demand, there's some mitigation that's taking an impact there. But our colleagues across the partnership are really focused on that. So I think what we should be doing as a partnership and in this chamber is recognising progress is being made. It's effective. The action that's been taken is effective. We can have confidence in that, but we cannot stop. We cannot rest. We must keep this as our key priority. I know when I talk about the outcomes for children and young people, those 6 outcomes that we've got across Nottinghamshire that have been co-produced with children and families, we need to keep our focus on those as well as our SEND services, and actually use this report, use this monitoring inspection as an opportunity to spring forward rather than step forward. And let's get that momentum, let's keep that momentum, let's keep that partnership work to make a difference for our children and families. That's helpful. We are expecting a full inspection within 18 months. We know at the moment that this is a space legislatively and financially that's going through a lot of change. The government is looking at a whole set of different opportunities and options. So, I'm confident that the partnership is ready for that inspection in 18 months' time, and we're in a good place to adapt and respond to any changes that come down through the government's SEND reforms as they come through.
Lovely, thank you, Peter. Georgina, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I would echo what Peter says, that parents remain, often parents that you talk to remain very frustrated by those waiting lists and the timescales of things, because obviously their children have only one shot at their childhood and their educational outcomes. So, they're very eager for things to move. I try to tell them that the partnership has changed and I think we're in a better place. But of course, I acknowledge that you need those other things to improve as well. And I think the partnership understands that those things have to change and that we need children, being able to access things earlier in their childhood, really.
Thank you. Councillor, if we just go on to Councillor Anna John.
I just wanted to comment on that, the Ofsted outcome, which I just think is fantastic, and goes to show like the leaps and bounds of progress that has been made since the previous inspection. So I want to publicly thank the officers, the team, and all the partners that are involved in making that happen. I really loved from the Ofsted inspection report that children's voices were valued there. They were really highlighted, and I think that's so important. And then also the community around them, they really took time with parent carers, of course, to ensure that their voices were heard as well. So I just thought that was absolutely fantastic. I know it's a priority of ours to continue to work closely with, to emphasise and to listen to the voices of parent carers and the children as well, I should say. And so, yeah, I just want to give that assurance that that is something we will be continually focusing on. I also want to highlight the wonderful data board. Is it data dashboard? There we go. Yeah, SEND improvement board, which is award winning. So I'm really pleased to hear about that. I sat with other councillors from different county councils last week, and one of the things that came up in that meeting was that just lack of data to be informed and to make decisions based on that and influence and policy. So I'm really proud of our department, really proud of our officers and staff and our partners. So thank you.
Okay, lovely, thank you, Anna. Just if
I didn't know if Councillor Richard had his question.
Oh, we've not got that yet.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so I'd like to move the recommendations and seek a seconder. Come back in a second, if that's okay. Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendations and seek your second. Lovely, thank you very much. So I'm now going to open the debate to the floor, and I'm going to bring Nigel in.
Thanks very much. Just two things briefly, if I may. The first is congratulations to Peter and your colleagues. I've seen how hard you've worked to reach the outcomes you've received recently, and I've watched with admiration, and I felt for you when the original Ofsted report came out and it was still public, and to show the resilience to get back up and say, well, then we'll make things better, is admirable. So congratulations. The second point I wanted to make is not a criticism of Peter, his colleagues, or any of the work that's going on, but it is, if you like, for committee members to present the views of a number of head teachers who are still finding themselves saying, we are trying really hard to meet the needs of this child in our mainstream educational setting, but fundamentally, we do not believe they are placed where they need to be. Their needs are not being met here. They are draining resources that we don't have, and they urgently need to be in a setting where they will receive an education which is appropriate for them, and where we can then redirect resources to the children who should be mainstream and are in the school rightly. So I just want to put that voice on the table as a little reminder that the frustration levels are still very high in our schools. As I said, it's not a criticism of anyone in this room. It's a national problem. And if this group has any voice to say at a national level, we need more, that would be a great outcome from meetings such as this one.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Girling.
Well, Nigel's just said part of it about it being a national problem, and I think any administration that's in control at the time when they get such a report is a devastating thing to happen. I know the reaction of the group I'm in had when they had that Ofsted report. But what I do admire about what happened, both in terms of how the then cabinet member Tracy Taylor and the senior management in this council approached putting it right, or trying to put it right the best way they can. And one of the best things about that was no blame game, because this is not just a report on Nottinghamshire County Council, it's a report on all the partners that provide the services for SEND. And it would have been very easy for us to say, well, the NHS didn't do what they're supposed to do, and the education didn't do what they're supposed to do, and blah, 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 blah. And, all right, we might not have done something right. And it could have been quite easy to do that, but we didn't. We grasped the nettle, we joined in with our partners, and we've worked through it, and we're getting a result, and we're in the right direction. And that's what you can always do. But I do firmly believe that this is because we went from our previous inspection was quite a good inspection. So we thought we thought we was doing the right thing. And my understanding is, so I might be wrong, because I've never really been on the Children's and Young People's Service Committee, was that they changed the criteria of the inspections, and it was a new concept of how they're going to assess SEND, and we were the first ones to be assessed. So, you know, you know, so they had to learn lessons from how they treated us, I think, and hopefully, and how it went on. But I also think that Nigel right in terms of SEND places for these young people to go to, because sometimes the setting isn't right for them to be in a mainstream school. It really isn't. And there's things like alternative education provision, which I've spoken to about previously, but also, you know, the previous administration have built SEND schools, and I think you're going to be opening one quite soon, which has got quite a few places on it, and that's something that came through my cabinet position, which I'm very proud of, that we've got that school, because it's of a really high quality and hope. I mean, we shouldn't. It's not nice that we need those sorts of things, but we do need to have them. But that brings into play then the other side of it, where it's always the battle, and that's getting those young people to those locations. Because if it's not in their school, which could be quite close to them, it creates a problem that we're building these schools for them to go to. But we've got to get them there, and that's a big budget, you know, and it's a really important budget, because not all of them can afford to get there, you know. And so we've got to make sure that when we look at the budget coming forward, we look at it all in the whole. The transport is linked with the schools. It's got to be, because if it's not, then you can have a really nice school and nobody in it. Yeah, because they won't be able to afford to get there, or they can't get there. We've got to make sure that all that goes. So I just want to say thank you really to all the officers that's been involved in doing all the hard work to try and improve SEND. I think, again, I'm going to agree with Nigel. Don't know him. We've not pre-planned this, have we, Nigel? You know, we've got to make sure we put a strong message to the government. Say, look, you know, this is something you've got to sort out. You know, you've got to give us a better resources to be able to put this right, so that we can do it. Because at the moment we can only do what we can do, and it's not really enough, I don't think. Despite all our good efforts. So thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Girling.
Chair, can I just come back? Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So just a couple of really minor points in relation to both of those, and thank you. And I think there's something around just recognising that the leadership in this does, although the County Council and Health and the Parent and Carer Forum have been part of that, so have schools and education settings in a wider sense. And the leaders in all of those settings, and the leaders in those multi-academy trusts and dioceses as well, play a significant role. So some of the things like the multi-academy trust network lead of SENCOs coming together to share good practice, these are all really important parts of building a stronger system. And it's not just leadership from the county council and the officers here or our partners, it's that wide system leadership that's really important about making a difference. The other thing that I just mentioned is that just that importance of keeping our children where we can in their local communities, accessing their local school, and if they need something additional, specialist, trying to provide that as close to home as is possible. And that includes, you know, new larger special schools, trying to make sure that that provision is meeting the needs of its local community as well. Because if we really mean that we want those positive outcomes for our children and young people, about enjoying their life, being able to play, have fun, being known, that happens where you live as well. It's really important that we keep a focus on that as we look ahead. And it probably relates to that issue around local schools and some of those challenges in schools. Nottinghamshire County Council provides a hefty proportion of its budget, as I said earlier, around cluster funding to local groups of schools to work as locally as it can. But we know schools are struggling, and we know that that's an issue that the government are looking at, and actually ensuring that schools are adequately resourced at a time where all the costs on schools are increasing, but making sure they've got the right funding level in order to be as inclusive as they can be and make the provision is critical. So if there is a message for central government at the moment, it probably relates to, you know, our schools are part of a system, and we talk about inclusive mainstream schools. We can only have inclusive mainstream schools if they're resourced, and supported and trained adequately to meet the needs of the local population. But totally agree with some of those points are really, really well made. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Members. Well, thank you, Peter. Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Actually, a lot of my points are going to go by Peter and McKeith. So, I've got 6 schools in my division. Having spoken to the teachers there and training systems and parents, the issue really is they're being overwhelmed, obviously, with the amount of children with SEND and that they haven't got the stuff in there to cope. I was speaking to one TA who basically said that her entire time is being spent on supporting SEND children, which of course she loves to do. It means children who perhaps need that extra bit of support, who don't qualify for SEND, are being ignored or not getting the support they need, so it's creating obviously other issues in the system. So I know it's a national issue, we've talked about it before, and that's why when the previous government said they were going to fund more places, the school we're building in Mantle, which Keith alluded to. So it's just understanding, will the new issue, will the council commit to keep lobbying the government to say we need these extra places, we need them funded there, and also the extra support in terms of capacity for schools, whether they are academy or maintained, because my fear is that with the trends coming through in terms of SEND, it's only going one way, which is up. And if we don't have the resources available to school, the children are not going to get the support they need, whether that's children who don't need SEND support, or children with SEND needs, because both are at risk of suffering really if the support isn't in place. And I just want to finish by saying a big well done to everyone involved with the improvement, because it is hard when you get a report like that. I can only imagine in a business life when you had audits through and they're bad, it's very hard to get down and to, like I say, the blame game like you talked about before, and not one to respond. The fact that everyone has in a positive way should be commended and shouldn't be talked down at all. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Rich.
I do apologise for the last question. A bit overexcited, So with this question, it's what I want to reiterate is that basically it has affected me personally because I had to go for an EAC plan, so it's kind of an important question to me. So the Ofsted CCQ report found one of the partnerships was taking effective over action review. The annual review EAC plan for most children and young people are not timely. This is confirmed by the department-owned data, showing only 41.6% of reviews were completed in the timescale in the first half of 2025. Given this is statutory duty, specific and urgent action have been taken to effect by the significant failing.
Yeah, shall I come in quickly on that one? And I won't go into a huge amount of detail because it was something that the committee wants to get into in that level of detail. We're quite happy to bring it back as a key area of focus in the future, because annual reviews, the data can be a little misleading, would be the first thing I'd say, because data comes in, goes into systems, goes into other systems and then is reported. So there's a lag in the data. So if you pull off a report, you have to wait 3 months really to see what the accurate data was. At the time of the SEND inspection back in January 2023, there was no published data on annual review timescales from anywhere in the country. Everybody was hiding it. Nottinghamshire annual reviews at that point were about 67% in timescale. So that happening in a year. And then once the review is conducted, actually, I think we currently have 98% of those changes to reviews being implemented within the statutory timescale. So really good performance once the review's back in. Annual reviews are complex in terms of where they're delivered. We've got an increasing number of young people with education, health and care plans. Currently 6,000 young people, 6,000. And that's increased from 3,000 over the last 4 years. So that significant increase in the number of young people with annual reviews. The reviews are often conducted where they are in education by SENCOs in their schools. There's lots of reasons why those annual reviews might be out of timescale. It could be you've got coming at a certain point, there's a term break, or there's holidays, or parent carers aren't available, or another partner's not available. Lots of reasons, it's quite complex. But our annual reviews, although the proportion happening bang on time isn't there, actually people aren't waiting a significant time beyond that. And when they have got that review, the changes are made very quickly to the education, health and care plan. So is there anything else that's really pertinent to know? I think we're working I said earlier, in a more district and locality based model. So our SEND service is restructuring around knowing and being part of localities. Claire Sampson, our head of SEND, is here. And if Claire had the opportunity, she'd probably want to talk about locality work and building relationships with schools, having practitioners that know families, that know schools, that can actually think ahead to what annual reviews are coming up in this area, rather than doing it at a Nottinghamshire-wide level. So it's not, this isn't a process, and if it's seen as a process, we're farming them out and farming them back in. Actually, this is about knowing families, knowing where they're educated, and making sure they're getting the right reviews at the right time, and we do that together. So that's the approach that we're developing. That's part of what's behind some of the changes to the SEND service. It will lead to improvements in those annual review timescales, and more importantly, it will lead to the right conversations around meeting the needs of children and young people, rather than us trying to hit a target on a box.
Yeah, I think Anne wanted to.
Only to say that I look forward to forward planning, a chance to come back and report to select committee about all of the other rich stuff that we're doing, technical term, I'm sure you'll agree with me, in this landscape, because we have got the Families First Partnership, which is all about support at the earliest point. And what we know is that for lots of parents of SEND children, there's a sense of loneliness that happens and difficulty. So a whole number of projects that we've got going on will really lend itself into the next stage of improvement for our SEND journey. Today, we wanted just to be really clear about its marker in the sand in terms of the inspection, and actually, coming back to help you have a bit more qualitative understanding about what's happening out in the community whilst we deal with some of the national challenges, I think would be really helpful for the committee.
Thank you, Anne. Councillor John, did you want to come in?
Not much more to add to that, but just off the back of what Peter McConaughey was saying. So with the statistic of the 41% that you were mentioning, there's also like the.
Oh, sorry, I can't.
Sorry,
I really can't hear you. I've been trying really hard. Sorry.
So I was just talking about the so with the percentage that you were referring to, I think that's also can be impacted by the re-referrals that it was stating in the report as well. So because obviously we've got we're now dealing with 12-month re-referrals, so that does also take up time as being able to meet that target that we want to do with the assessments for EHCPs. So that is just another contributing factor I just wanted to highlight. So. But yeah.
It's just
Councillor Green.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of things. I want to thank Adrian Smith as well. He was very humble and transparent with where we were at as a council, and the LGA, the Local Government Association, made that clear to me in close quarters where they didn't have to. But she was particularly commendable about how, because we, as Councillor Gurley said, we were the first one. So I just wanted to commend it publicly. I wanted to answer your question directly because I felt that was towards us, rightfully so. Councillor John and I have worked in schools directly for years, so we are really aware of the national pulse on the ground, how it's been for so long, not just with SEND, but with children with social, emotional, mental health needs. And we have been fighting from day one, really, to see what is going on, but celebrate this success today, but to actually build and create even more so, because if you look at statistical neighbours for the EHCPs, to answer Councillor Rich's question as well, our statistical neighbours are 32% for that 20-week deadline. So we are flourishing, but like we say, nationally, we were in a schools forum, so we want to actually thank the schools forum as an entity to help drive change and a difference, extrapolating all their boots on the ground knowledge, the schools. But we were actually saying that with other reform cabinet member leads about, right, we hear that there is a massive 20-odd billion shortfall for funding. Right, we've heard enough now. So what are we actually going to do? Because it is an opportunity as well. But if there's a problem, and it might sound a little bit backward, there's always opportunity. So we're coming up with creative solutions as well, together and working with these people to say, right, what is it we can do? So it is an exciting time actually to keep driving on top of this momentum as well. So we want to protect that and help the TAs as well. And we're open to hear from all councils, from all the areas. Like, tell us if you've got people who are struggling, schools are suffering. And then another last point, as well as lobbying nationally, what we said as well is there's schools that independent schools get particular funding that isn't regulated. especially in this region. So we want to look at that too and lobby that nationally, because there's a lot of money that goes to these schools, and that was mentioned in the forum as well. So we want to thank them for that information. But we have a duty as well as a conduit to central government to fight for this, so we will continue to do so. All right.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Green. Lovely. Councillor Cullen.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say I've been involved in another organisation that had a poor Ofsted, and I know what the battle is to turn that around. So I think it's really commendable that in such a short period of time, such a lot of progress has been made. I think that's really commendable, and it's really good news. And I suppose my question is, it's on my mind all the time at the moment, local government reorganisation and what forward planning, because in the middle of an improvement process, what forward planning is happening for the splitting of the service. For example, we heard at the last meeting about the marvellous work that's happening at a school very near to my ward in Chilwell, but if LGR goes ahead, that will be in the city, not in the county. So what's the planning for splitting that at the moment?
Happy to, yeah. So as part of the initial scoping work around local government reorganisation and what that might look like, our SEND services, our SEND demand, our SEND spend, our SEND placements in terms of sufficiency of specialist provisions, all part of that, and we've got access to all of that. So we've pulled all that data. We're looking at that from all the different options, depending on what happens. I mean, obviously at this point in time, we've got a preferred, there's a preferred option put forward by Nottinghamshire County Council, but we wait to see how that will play out. So our SEND Partnership Improvement Board, we had a conversation about this, 3 weeks ago, yeah, with those people that are scrutinising our improvement and testing it, and local government reorganisation was on the agenda there. So it is something we're cited on. I mean, LGR is something we're talking to school leaders about as well, getting their input. And I'll be sending an email out to school leaders and MAT leaders this week, focused on LGR and getting some feedback from them, just to hear more directly from the sector. And as we begin to know more about what that looks like and what option is taken forward, that's where we can get into the real detailed planning around what does that mean. And we were very fortunate in Nottinghamshire, actually, that all of our districts have a similar number of schools within them, and our specialist provision is spread across the county in each different district. And as we start developing new, more local provision, we need to keep an eye on that alongside LGR as well, to make sure we're kind of thinking to the future. But we're cited on that, and we'll maintain that.
I guess the only thing to add to that is just the value of a place-based agenda for particularly for our SEND children, to be a bit more inclusive, and certainly in the conversations that we're very live and a lot of at the moment is about what the opportunities are for children in the future of LGR.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Stott.
Thank you, Chair. My background's technology, so I always sniff out an IT related problem. So I note on page 37 of the report, and I quote, variable experiences of parents, carers and professionals in relation to the online EHCP platform, with some users reported in relation to the platform and associated user guidance. Now, my question is, in an age where technology, we live in, the technology age where everything is website driven, you can buy anything online. Why do we seem to have repeated IT related problems, particularly related to my last question of LMS and now with the EHCP platform? And I want to know what impact have these IT related issues with the platform, potentially, according to what the report is saying. How much of an effect is that having on this statutory, the 47% or less than half of EHCP needs being met through 20-week learning? So it seems to be a delay
So yeah, thank you. What I'll do, if it's okay, is I'll let Claire in a moment come in as head of SEND to talk around the platform and the way that works and any impact of that. Just in terms of the timescale, because I think we always get a bit confused. There's so many different timescales in the SEND world, annual reviews, education, health and care plans. The 20-week statutory timescale for education, health and care plans. I think at the time of our monitoring inspection, nationally, it was 46.4% of plans nationally were being produced, and at that point in Nottinghamshire, 49.54% of plans were being produced within 20 weeks. There is nobody will, it will never be 100%. That's a reality. It's a reality of the SEND system. So we have to strive to be at national and better. So we look at that in terms of our statistical neighbours, where we used to be an outlier. We were really poor performing at 4.5% at the end of 2023, and we're now at 49% at the time of that inspection. So that sort of 1,000% increase, if you will, is positive. Sustaining that trajectory is going to be challenging, and that's something we need to stay focused on, especially if demand increases. We know that. That's part of the challenge. But I think we have made significant progress across Nottinghamshire within that statutory timescale. Stay cited on that. We're no longer an outlier we once were. That's really important to recognise that. Claire, do you want to come in on the other bits?
Yeah, thank you. So our online platform, I think what's fair to say is that actually lots of it's a challenge that lots of local authorities are struggling with, and I don't think any local authority has found the perfect solution. We have had our online platform has been in for some time. It was in at the point of the previous full inspection as well. It's a challenge. It's trying to having a platform that works for everybody right across the system. So it's a platform that we want our schools to be able to access, our health colleagues, children's social care, parents and carers. But obviously it also has to be confidential as well. So that there are challenges to it. I don't think it does, as Peter said, I don't think it has any impact on the timescales. And actually what the platform does do for us is it pulls live data and reporting from there, so we can use that alongside our own internal systems to kind of check out accuracy of data and support us in moving forward with that. I think there's probably some of what says in the report is probably some individual preference as well. So I know that some parents actually would prefer to get the reports through email or via paper and the post. So we do try to work with individual requests and difference, but I think what I would acknowledge, it's not perfect. We continue to work with the providers to try and make it better and make it work better for us, but also better for our parents and families. But it is a work in progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add a perspective from a parent's point of view, the other thing is the platform performs better if you're on a laptop. Lots of parents are not accessing things via a laptop, even possibly a tablet. They're using a phone, and therefore that's quite hard to navigate when you're on a small phone accessing the things, and so it does bring a level of frustration.
Okay, thank you. Lovely, thank you. Anything else to add?
Sorry, I think just our last point about that would be that there are really serious challenges around the timescales, and nobody is happy with something that presents as this presented. And one of our biggest focus has to be around what's our help and support to families whilst they wait to go through a process. And that's the point that knits our system together, rather than seeing SEND as a unit in its own right. It really ties into how we work locally and make sure we've got the right support. You can see Amanda's head nodding lots in terms of thinking about what will be our effectiveness around the family first partnerships.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, so can we have a summary, Martin, please?
Yeah, well, there we go. Right. I think it'd be good to put a note of thanks from the committee to the officers the work they've done in getting the monitoring inspection result, and also their commitment to the further progress, which everyone I think has agreed on. I think there's a talk about members agree that it would be appropriate that the department continue lobbying the government where appropriate to establish channels to try and access more funding, which is always a good thing. Just to think that the Family First approach is actually coming to committee in March on the changes on that, and there's a report in July on how the department is preparing for LGR. And then finally, I hate the expression, but I will use it. There's a deep dive around annual reviews is included in the SEND progress report that's scheduled for the March 26 meeting.
Thank you. So members, can I assume that all your points have been captured, please? And may I have a show of hands? Lovely, thank you. So item number 6, Children and Families Departmental Performance, Risk and Financial Position, Q1, 2025-2026. May I ask Councillor Rory Green, Cabinet Member for Children and Family, to introduce the report, please?
Yeah, I'm delighted to introduce it. I like highlighters, as you can probably see. And as I was going through, I'm big on KPIs, key performance indicators, and yeah, I'm just really grateful for all the great work that's been taking place in this particular department, and lots more greens in my rag reviewing. So yeah, happy to introduce the officers, and yeah, very happy.
Thank you. Can I ask any officers present if they have anything to add, please?
No, thank you so much. One of the things we thought might be helpful today is look, mindful of a lot of information in this report. So I have two very trusted colleagues with me today. We have Dave, our performance team, and Steve, who is our Children's Services Head of Finance. What we thought we would do is just walk you through. There are 7 slides here, just to pull out some of the key issues in it. And you'll see that it really speaks to everything else that we've talked about as the day has gone on. But I'll hand over to Dave just to take us through slide 1, and we're really happy to focus on the slide and stop and have a conversation if that's helpful and if that's agreeable to you, Chair.
Thank you, Anne. So probably just helpful to explain my role. I head up the children.
David, can we just move the recommendation? Because if we're going to do it that way, it'll get a bit confusing. Yeah,
that's okay. That's fine. Can I seek a second if we to move the recommendations?
Seconded.
Lovely, thank you. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
You for me, so apologies.
Yeah, it's probably just helpful to explain my role. So I head up the Children's Business Intelligence team, and our role is to support the Children's and Families Department with their data and analytical needs. We act as a kind of critical friend as well, so we'll challenge them on what the data is showing them. It's really positive because the children's leadership have got a very strong data ethic. Everything they do is driven by data and by performance information, both in terms of the day-to-day work of the teams, but also in terms of the transformational activity that's currently underway. We just picked up a few of the key strong areas of performance to start with from the report. One of the indicators we look at is the percentage of assessments which are targeted early help assessment. We talked a bit earlier around our transformation at the front door and around the Families First programme, and our need to be able to deliver the right support at the right time rather than looking at it as a threshold. We're looking at it in terms of the needs of the family. The data is really positive, but we've seen an increase of 3 percentage points from last quarter in the number of those assessments which are a targeted early help assessment. It's up to 29.9% now. The second point there, I think we've covered in quite a lot of detail in the last agenda item, and that's around despite the large increase we've seen in demand, we have still got a relatively high proportion of EHCPs issued in timescale, and as we said, that's above both the England and our statistical neighbour average. One of the areas we've been tackling recently is the proportion of child and family assessments which result in no further action for social care. So a child and family assessment is a statutory assessment of the needs of the child and the family. And we've seen the proportion of those that result in no further action reduce over the last year. And that's due to the work we're doing at the front door again to ensure that children and families receive the right support at the right time. And it's linked into that first measure as well in terms of targeted early help assessments. We'll be moving further over next year through the Families First programme in this area, because one of the key strands of Families First is about having a holistic single assessment of all the child's and family's needs, regardless of whether that's a social care intervention or targeted early help support. So these are kind of merged together into a single direction moving forward. One of the things we look at as well is making sure that children don't remain on a child protection plan too long. We don't want to see drag in the system. I'm really pleased to say that just 1.3% of the children on the child protection plan have been on that plan for more than 2 years, and that's half the England average. So we're making sure we're reviewing, meeting those families' needs in a really timely manner. And also 96% of our child protection cases are reviewed in time scale. Again, the England average is 90% on that. So that's above that, and it's above our statistical neighbours. Where those timescales are missed, they are only missed by a day or two. It's really around scheduling of those reviews and availability of children, families and partners. We're continuing to reduce the number of children in unregulated placements. Obviously, we don't want any children in unregulated placements, but because of placement sufficiency, we do have a small number. And that's fallen again, just 1.6% of our children in care, just 15 children now are in unregulated placements. That was at the end of June. It's actually fallen further down, but we're now down to 12 children.
Sorry, could I just ask what's an unregulated placement?
It's a residential placements need to be regulated by Ofsted. But we have a small number where those placements are currently regulated. A proportion of those, they're going through the approval process to become registered with Ofsted.
Okay.
All of those placements are reviewed on a weekly basis by senior management, and we are confident that those placements are safe and meeting those children's needs, but they aren't yet regulated and registered with Ofsted.
Dave, let me come in. It's a really big national issue about sufficiency of the right children's homes or care arrangements for children. And there are many other local authorities that are in a similar or more difficult position to Nottinghamshire. Having one child makes us worry, really.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased when I take over here about the enormity of the work that's happened in the service to really reduce that. Very sadly, we do have some children who have very complex issues, and actually it is more challenging to find the right provider. So these children's plans and outcomes that are reviewed every Thursday. Rachel is part of that as a service director. It is something that I will have very tight over too. So just to give you some really clear assurance about that. Part of wanting to walk you through some slides today is because Nottinghamshire is not perfect, really. Neither is any other local authority in the country. But really having you understand the complexities of the service is a really important part of this report.
Thank you.
Where children are looked after, this last point, we should be really proud that actually they remain, our placement stability is very good. So all of our children who've been in care for more than 2.5 years, 85% have remained in their most recent placement, their current placement for at least 2 years.
Dave, I'll just come in. Because I have more of a national picture, having been around a bit, shall we say, over the last 10 years, that's an incredibly good statistic, really. Talk about children, of course, but what that means, you know, our whole ambition across the country is about stable homes built on love. So knowing that the majority of our children are stable for more than 2 years, it's the kind of language that children tell us that's what they want. So helpful.
Yeah, and that's really positive because it compares to just 68% nationally, so we're above national average in that measure. Do you want to take any more questions or comments on this slide?
Fine.
Sorry.
Fine, thank you.
Okay. If you look at areas for improvement or where we've seen performance deteriorate slightly, we have seen reductions in the proportion of annual reviews for EHCs completed in time scale, which we talked about on the last item, and there is work underway to improve that. The proportion of referrals, which are a re-referral, remains slightly above the national average. So what the referrals we take it is where a contact at our multi-agency safeguarding hub results in a child and family assessment, and a re-referral is deemed if it comes back in again and then re-referred and reassessed again within 2 years. It was higher than we'd want it to be, and work is underway through the transformation work at the front door to reduce that. and we have seen that come down. It's now 5 percentage points lower than it was at its peak. It's continuing to reduce, but we are just a couple of percentage points now above the national average still for that measure. So further work to do in that area. Likewise, although we've seen a decrease in the proportion of persistently absent pupils, and we are actually now below the national statistical neighbour averages for that measure, overall levels of absences in our schools remain high. It's a national issue post-COVID that all authorities are struggling with, but there is obviously more for us to, as a partnership, to do around school attendance. And the last measure, 50% of our care leavers aged 19 to 21 are in education, employment and training, slightly below the national average, 3 percentage points below at the point at the end of Q1, and a decrease of 1.4 percentage points on the previous year. But what we have seen since then, the latest data, which we've just run for the end of Q2, has seen that increase to 55%. So we are seeing improvements in that area.
I mean, I'm sure that you're as worried as the rest of us when you see a figure like that, really. You know, a lot of our care experienced young people will have been through COVID, 5 years ago. Think about the age of young people. These last 2 bullet points are a really significant issue nationally. That doesn't excuse the fact that we know that we've got what to do in this particular area, because we also know, don't we, that education, employment and training is an aspiration for life. So it's certainly something that we are a bit more obsessed about in the service, just to give you some reassurance about that.
Do we have a breakdown of figures of where the other 50% are?
We will have, we just haven't brought them today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just to move on then to some of the risks and strengths in the report. So as we said, we've got 3 major transformational improvement programmes currently underway, which are looking to address some of those areas where further work's needed, where our highest risks sit. So that's the Families First Partnership Programme, our work around inclusion and send improvement, which we've obviously discussed and had the extent inspection for recently, and our work for Homes for Children in Care. So as we said, through the send improvement, we've already demonstrated to regulators that we're taking effective action to address those issues, and that work will continue. Our Homes for Children in Care programme, which Rachel leads on, includes several work streams, and that's around placement sufficiency, so ensure we have the right types of homes for our children in care, and to mitigate any issues arising from changes in market conditions. So we're looking at growing our own residential estate for those children. We're looking at recommissioning block contracts to get better and more suitable accommodation for those children. And we're also looking at revising our fostering support to try and improve, increase and retain our own in-house fostering provision for those children. And then just lastly, we talked about the Families First Partnership Programme. So that's around really enabling our ambition around making sure we provide the right support at the earliest point for those children and families to improve their outcomes and to address the impacts we're seeing in terms of the amount of demand we've seen at the front door. There's funding related to that, and it actually mandates us to be able to work differently with our partners, and it's going to, and as we said, in terms of national initiatives towards those support, better sharing of information so we can find, target and support those families at an earlier point.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. I just wondered if Amanda or Rachel, you wanted to say anything in particular? No need to.
I was actually thinking how well Dave's covered it, to be honest with you. I don't think he's left me too much, but I'm happy to take any questions around the Homes for Children programme, which would be about all of the work we're doing to make sure our children in care have got the right home to live in.
Similarly for Families First, I've talked about that in the earlier report, but it's a really, really important piece of work that we're doing, and we're happy to take any questions.
I will now open up to the floor then. Councillor Saddington.
So I'd just like to ask, I realise at the moment there is a lot of advertising for foster parents. I'm just wondering what kind of replies you've had to that. Are you finding that people are coming forward or not?
We are, yes, we're seeing an increased number of initial inquiries, which is what we call it, and people look like hits on the website and then they turn into inquiries, and then slightly fewer of those turn into the first visit and that kind of thing. But we are seeing an increase in what we previously had in Nottinghamshire and across the East Midlands region. In terms of, we would love that to be further and faster. It does take 6 to 9 months from the point that somebody expresses an interest all the way through to when they might actually become a foster carer because they've had their assessment completed. So it does take time for all of the work we're doing now around recruitment to actually come to the fore, if that makes sense. But we have just, we've sort of turned the tide in terms of we are now seeing an increased number, that people are coming in the door faster than we're losing them.
That's encouraging.
Yes.
Just build on that, Rachel. On the last Wednesday, we had the foster carers conference. It was, we just publicly want to acknowledge just how amazing our fostering team were at the day that they put on for our foster carers as a celebratory event. And we know, of course, that word of mouth in fostering is one of the best recruitment things you can do. So it was a very good, happy, engaging event. Yes, last week.
It was, yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. Fostering is my personal priority number one in my time here as cabinet holder. And I'm outstanding job by Matt. I don't know, Matt's not here. No, Matt Weston's one of the services for fostering and absolutely smashed the day and really made up, because if we get fosterers and kinship carers, I want to publicly give them a shout out, a bit like you with voluntary service. Kinship carers are people in the family who take in children within the extended family to keep them in the house. So it's a massive priority of mine, and I've stressed this to the leader as well. We're in conversations, it's going to be part of the plan. So yeah, and Anne and I have had some really good conversations as well about the process of fostering. Are we putting people off by it being too long? Is it appropriate enough with the stringent amount of questions? Yes, we've got to keep children safe, but is it off-putting as well? So we are looking at it with an open mind. So yeah, I just want to thank all the team for the recent hard work, because yeah, that's vitally important.
Okay, thank you, Rory. Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So first of all, want to really thank everyone who's been involved in terms of the performance on children, because it is really difficult. I understand that, and that's the administration, and especially with the constraints you have on the amount of statutory spend. And I know Tracy's spent a lot of time in terms of, all our group meetings was constantly going on about and rightly so, the investment we need to put in our young people and children. So it's good to see that's being reflected. For me, going back to the slide about the care leavers who are going to work and training. So it's something big passion of mine around apprenticeships, and I know we did a lot of work on it in the previous administration on it. We all know where the job market currently is, and the noise coming out of government, but it's not going to get probably any better than in the next few months and years. So I'm saying what we can do around our care leavers to really encourage them around the apprenticeship and training route. So I know that we, offer people an interview there, we've got the bursaries that are there, but what more can we do as a council to encourage more to apprenticeship, especially with the council? I mean, the wide range of jobs and opportunities we have here is hopefully would be appealing to a lot of people, even if it's just to get on their CV and to go elsewhere. I think we also have to recognise the number of care leavers who want to get far away from Nottinghamshire as possible after that, because they want to have a new start of their life. I completely understand that, and obviously that's entirely their choice. But those who want that opportunity, I think we do have that more responsibility than anything else to try to do all we can to find that role if we can, our organisation, give them that chance. So it'd be interesting to know your views, and especially the cabinet members, about what they see that doing over the next year, 2 years, what more we can do to work with our care leavers, and especially just leading up to that. There's no point on the last day or week before they leave, by the way, here's that. It's that build up to understand more. I know we offer work experience, but really try to follow it. The apprenticeship isn't the dirty word it was 5-10 years ago. I think a lot of people now recognise why go spend £50 at university or when you can do the apprenticeship, earn while you learn and have the opportunity. So I think we've got a good opportunity now to really practice what we preach for the future we're looking at.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think there's a bit of a passion of mine in terms of thinking about adulthood starts at a much earlier age, hence the reason for the 2 bullet points around the importance of school attendance, and making sure that we're supporting families to get their children into education. I am particularly keen, with a bit more time than 6 weeks, to be able to get under the skin of what the opportunities are for young people. It's an incredible place, Nottinghamshire, isn't it? In my 6 weeks, I'm very taken by the opportunities for all of our young people, but we'll have our heads together over the coming few months about what we might need to do differently to be a bit more creative around, and we know that apprenticeships can be fantastic for young people's self-esteem. I just also want to say that we also know through, well, I know through what Peter tells me, is that we have some amazing achievements for some of our care experienced young people, and I think one young person just qualified as a doctor, is that right? So I think there's lots of really interesting experience to build on.
Lovely, thank you. Can I pull Dr. Mark in, please?
Yeah, sure. It's perhaps just worth reminding people that 5 years ago now, we managed to get agreement across the Safeguarding Partnership that any young person who'd been through the care system and who applied for an entry-level job with one of the statutory agencies would be guaranteed an interview. Not guaranteed a job, but at least guaranteed to get through the door to interview for a job. That's a while ago now, and we perhaps need to just prod that one a little bit to make sure that everyone's aware of that as a possibility. 3 very large employers leading into very good jobs, so it would be crazy not to be promoting that.
Thank you. Councillor Cullen.
Thank you, Chair. Just on kinship care, I have been a kinship carer in the days before it was called kinship care. It was called ward of court. But I've personally experienced it and have many things that I think about it and to say about it as I raised my niece. And I also work with a lot of children in my day job. I work with a lot of children that are in care and in kinship care. And the one thing that I want to say this really, and we all know it, when we talk about all these things, it's all, a lovely report, but everybody in here is an actual child that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody's an actual child.
Definitely.
And talking to children, everybody in here is an actual child, especially you. And the children say that they don't get told what's happening and they don't know what's happening around them. And I think that's something we've really got to think about with kinship care and with other care settings. 60 children placed more than 50 miles from home. Do you know what? 10 miles is a long way. 10 miles is a long way. 60 miles? Where's 60 miles? Leicester? Past Leicester? It's a very long way from home for a child to be placed. And I think we should have an ambition that no children are placed that far away from home. I know in some cases it's safer for them, but I think it should be an ambition. And I know it was really the way that you presented the report was really good, because you said, it was a real worry about the 50% of young people leaving care. Where are they? If they're not in education, employment or training, they're in their bedroom or somebody else's bedroom or somebody's drug den or something like that. And it's a shocker. And I feel like we should have an ambition that no child leaves care in Nottinghamshire without there's a plan. As a parent, if your child said they were up and leaving home and they had no job, no school, no training, nothing, you couldn't believe it, could you? And as a corporate parent, I can't believe it. I don't want a single child to leave care and be signed off as leaving care without they have a future to go to. I don't think it's okay. I don't care if it's a national average. I don't accept ever the excuse that, oh, we just compare with other similars and this is a national problem. In fact, we're not in government, we're in local authority. It's our problem here, and I think it should be our stated ambition that no child leaves care without we know what their future is. And on a similar vein, the children absent from school, there'll come a point where we have to stop saying post-COVID, because actually the reason it's reducing is because 5 years on, some of them have now got way beyond the school age, so it's going to reduce anyway, because the ones that were 14 and 15 and didn't go back to school after COVID are now sort of 19 and 20. So the number, it is a national problem, but the number of children that are persistently not attending school and nothing's being done about it, I don't want to really hear that it's a national problem. I want to hear what's the plan, what in Nottinghamshire are we going to do about it? What's going to be done? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely agree with you. Just don't mean to be provocative. You use the words "nothing's being done" about it.
I don't say nothing. I'm saying what's
you just
being
did, but there is some phenomenal staff. We've met with the care leaver staff in Alderton, and they've given us genuine prime examples of follow-up care where some are sadly getting into criminality, that they've gone on prison visits when they may not even be offered to say, oh, you must go there. They're using the initiative to go out there and work with us. So I know what it's like. 10 years ago, I was in the care system working as a support worker. Hardly anything in place, way worse than it is now. So the trajectory is in the right direction nationally. Like I had, once they got to 18, care young people contacting me because there was nothing in provision, and they're dipping in and out homelessness. They were lads that are not getting job opportunities, and that is there now. It is in the right trajectory. Another thing I wanted to encourage you with was you mentioned about the 60-mile radius. I couldn't agree more. And we've got a really good strategy where I've seen, again, since 10 years ago, homes where we'd have 5, 6, 7, 8 bedders, and you'll have children in placements from all over the country. And I was just like, this is madness. It don't work. They end up absconding and try and go back to where they're from. So I was delighted back in July to work with Beth Downing, some of the team. I had a care home approved on my patch. It's going to be a 2-bedded therapeutic model. So 24% of children in Ashfield are the looked after population in Nottinghamshire. So it's important to us that they're close from home. So that's something we've already done in this administration, is opening up small therapeutic care bedded homes for these children to feel like they are at home. And if they do, they're in their locality. So we've already tackled in that work. That's a manifested response to the agreement with your point, because it's just wild. 60 miles and more is way too far. So yeah, just to let you know, that's been going on.
Thank you. Councillor Girling.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. Page 61, paragraph 47 is confusing the life out of me. So it might be me. I put that out there already, but it says we've got an overspend of 400k, but then it goes on about reduced costs, and I don't know how we can have reduced costs and an overspend. So maybe somebody could explain that to me. And also within that paragraph, it says about additional incentive money. Just like to know who gets that and how much is it per child, please. So it's not just me that's confused then. I don't know, you can have a...
Did you say paragraph 47?
Paragraph 47. It's page 61 of the book, of the papers, but it might be different online. 47. You're 40, yeah, that's right, yeah. Overspend, but then it's all about reduced costs. So I don't get it.
So in terms of paragraph 47, we would have, we've got to the point where our unaccompanied asylum seeking children, a lot of them they're over 18 now. At that point, the funding that we receive from the Home Office drops off quite considerably. So the cost of placing those children is more than we're receiving. So we have reduced some central costs to try and manage that. So we have reduced central costs, but the cost of placing the children has gone up at the same time. So the overall cost has gone up, but the central bit has come down.
But once they're 18, they're not children, are they?
But they have no recourse to public funds, so we continue to support them financially.
So that incentive money then, is that to the individual 18-year-old, or is that that's to us?
Yeah.
Okay, so we get incentive money for looking after them. Okay, thank you. The next question then, if I may.
You may,
is
yes.
Completely different, so different head on, please. Page 65, paragraph 70, well, it's the block above paragraph 72. Yeah, and I'm looking specifically at the SEN home to school transport on that. Have we anticipated how, because to me that doesn't seem a lot of money, £1.7 million for it, but have we anticipated the increase in that fund from when we get the new school open, and where are the, do we know where the children are coming from within the county to go to that school, and what cost that's going to be?
Thank you, Councillor Girling. I'll say two things if that's
That didn't
okay.
sound genuine, did it?
The first one is that colleagues in transport do a lot of that work around the mapping. They're working really closely with Claire's service to make sure that the location of children for the new school, when any new provision is in transport, is mapped into that. And again, it speaks to that locality working. So historically, there would have been a position of young person needs a school place for specialist provision, they'll get one, and we'll deal with it all separately. And now we're having a joined conversation around that, so that transport is factored into that, and is also part of the conversation with parents and carers around placements, because it needs to be seen in the round, both in terms of time and cost, and does that make it the right placement or not? Can it meet needs? So those conversations are happening, that piece of work's underway, and we'll continue to focus on that. And one of the there was a comment in one of the earlier slides, that one there, about the different programs. So in the Inclusion and Send program, there's a work stream on Send Transport, which is bringing together colleagues and officers from across the organisation to work collectively around managing the pressures in Send Transport, and plotting those and coming out with new ways of mitigating some of that, albeit with knowing that there's increased demand. So it's really important. Also speaks to that locality thing we talked about earlier, about as close to home as you can have your needs met. It's going to be better all around. In terms of the table, which was the other question, and the 1 point, I can't see the line now, the 1.764 in there, that's a contribution. So that is not the cost of home to school transport.
Right.
That's a contribution to the home to school transport from the high needs block budget, which is there to meet the needs of and the provision of children and young people with SEND and the services that support them through early intervention. There's some really strict criteria around that block, what it can be used for. That's a fixed sum of money. It's not gone up, and it's not gone down, because the rules around how high needs spending can be used adapted several years ago, and therefore that's been fixed since that time. So it supports with that cost, it doesn't cover it. And actually, if you look at the pressure on that high needs block, it wouldn't be able to. So it is just a fixed contribution towards that.
I think that brings up what I mentioned earlier about the fact that transport needs to be really linked in with SEND. Otherwise, we're going to not really understand the full cost and implication behind it, and which budget it comes from will be really important as well. I think, because you don't want it to be interfering with the provision of SEND. It needs to be, but it needs to be a sort of supporting SEND.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Mann.
Yeah, it's going back to a truancy from schools. So literally about 15 years ago, I worked as a schools officer for Nottinghamshire Police. And I know then we worked closely with the truancy officers from education. And we actually on a daily basis would send a truancy bus out to try and speak to people at home, speak to the parents, guardians, and then hopefully persuade the children to go into school. So I just wondered if you still have that, you still work with the police, if schools are still working with the police, you still have those truancy officers who work closely, and what you can do to significantly reduce, truancy in schools as a multi-agency kind of work. If you're still doing that, or if what you'd think to kind of significantly reduce the amount of truants you get from school.
Wow, there's a lot in there,
Yeah,
but that explains where I know your name from, so that's really good. So, okay, so I mean, look, I think school absence and truancy is just part of school absence rates. School absence rates will cover a whole load of things, from holidays to truancy to illness, to unauthorised absence, to pupils who aren't attending for mental health reasons, through to suspensions and exclusions, all scooped up in that. So I think there's a bigger thing there than truancy. I think that school absence is something that that needs to be all of our business, a bit like SEND, a bit like safeguarding. And that includes, if we're out in our wards having a walk, what are we doing? If we see families out when they should be in school, do we have those conversations? There's a whole piece of work we can do there. I think absence and the approach to absence warrants its own scrutiny as a scrutiny item. We've got services that support the working partnership. There's really clear guidance and renewed guidance from government about the roles of local authorities, the roles of schools, the roles of multi-academy trusts, and the roles of governing bodies. That actually it'd be good to unpack some of that in a bit more detail and look underneath it. And I don't think we do it justice covering it here or sending a note out after. It's probably one of those items that actually the colleagues from the co-opted members of schools would want to bring their knowledge and expertise into that as well, I'm sure. Maybe that's
it's on the work programme for the next meeting.
And also to know what works, really. I'm still stuck with the illusion of a truancy bus. But we just live in very different times. And actually how adult parental mental health affects children's sense of caring, and actually what are the blocks to get children into school.
Has changed on the last 15 years since I was doing it.
Lovely. Nigel.
You might think I'm wasting 2 minutes of the committee's time, but if I was president of the world and I had a lot of resource at my disposal, I would make sure that every school and every multi-academy trust has gifted people working for it who build quality relationships with families of children who are not coming to school. Trusted relationships where when they knock on the door, the parents don't feel the need to hide from them, that they're known faces, they're people who are welcome in the home, who are there regularly, and who are creating those relational links to say, let's work together on making sure that your child gets to school tomorrow morning. And after all of the strategy planning and the discussions around resources, for me, that's the magic bit at the heart of it. It's relational, it's the right people getting to know the families, building those relationships with them. And that has to be the core of whatever it is we're working towards, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. Can I just go on to paragraph 30? It's given an age group of 12, 13 and 14 with more than 10% of pupils. And then underneath, we've got 1% of pupils between 4 and 9 for the suspensions. We seem to have like a window there of opportunity. I was just curious to know what does that window look like between 9-year-old and 12-year-old, where we've got the most prevalent age group of suspensions. So have we got a plan for that to intervene between 9 and 12?
Similar to the, thank you, Councillor Darrington. And similar to the attendance one, it's probably another one of those big areas that would be really helpful to have a full conversation actually and get the views of lots of people in, rather than just officers. And again, I would talk to school colleagues in that. I think the big change between 9 and 12 years of age is you go from primary school to secondary school. And that transition is often there's lots of bits around that transition, both in terms of preparedness and but also the different environment, sometimes different expectations, all sorts of changes there. So that transition is the biggest part of that, having strong transition supports, and lots of our schools are really strong in their transition, but it's a critical time for young people.
I'm just going to add that your heart sinks when you see 4-year-olds to 9-year-olds being suspended from school, and I think that's it has to be a key line of inquiry for us collectively and as a partnership to think about what it is that we can do in order to prevent such a serious step as suspending such a young child. Really. So we hear the level of concern, we just need to go away, and I think it's a good idea to bring it back as a
and bring the partners in. Let's have a collective view.
It's on the same lines really about expulsions from schools. we're really lucky in Nottinghamshire. We've got lots of organisations that do alternative education provision, and I think that maybe this council needs to look at a strategy to see how it can engage with those organisations, because you know there's some fantastic examples of where those organisations that are taking young people that are either on the brink of expulsion or have been expelled, teaching them through things like, I mean, locally, we've got one that does it through boxing. And we've got another one that does it through sport, you know. So there's all these, and one through fishing, you know. So there's all these different methods of getting those young people engaged, being taught without knowing they're being taught, getting them so they then become a better people, I suppose is the best way of putting it, so they can then go back to school because they know how to behave then. And so it's not always about keeping hold of them, it's about getting them to a point where they can then go back into mainstream education and benefit from that. And I think it's one of those things where the first thing that's going to come to mind is how can we afford to do that? But my view is how can we not afford to do that? Because we are letting all those young people down that get expelled. Yeah, because it's not always down to them. Often it's down to the circumstances which they live. Yeah, and they don't know how to cope with it. And the way to cope with it is by being bad and being naughty and doing the things that they shouldn't do. And it's beholden to us as corporate parents to come up with some method of trying to engage them. And it's not all one thing. I mean, I'm on a trust that does the boxing. Yeah, but I know that's not right for all of them. You know, I've been to the one that does the fishing and seen how them, and they're learning all sorts of things because they have to know how much ground bait they put into water and things like that. So they're learning all the time about things, and it's engaging them, and they're learning the discipline, because if they don't do it, they won't be able, they won't be able to do that thing which they enjoy. So I just think really it'd be fantastic if this council took on the task of forming a strategy of how we can enhance that in this county, because there's loads of examples, not just in York that I know about, but I know like in Mansfield there's some good examples, in St Anne's, which is Nottingham, I know, but again, good examples that we could possibly take on. And I just think I'm really passionate about it, because I believe that is a really good way of engaging. And I believe it or not, I wasn't always a model kid, and maybe alternative education provision would have been a lot better for me. So it's to me, I really do believe in it. I'm passionate about it, and I think we should take it on. And I know we've had that conversation.
Alternative. Can I bring?
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor John.
Absolutely, I concur with all of those comments. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Can you speak up? Sorry, I can't.
Sorry, thank you so much for bringing that up, Councillor Girling. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So yeah, alternative provision is definitely a priority for me, and actually we're going to be meeting about it later, just to talk about it. And I just think we have such a wealth within this county of role models, organisations and voluntary organisations as well that we can really bring in to help support our young people. We know that when they stay in school, their life expectancy outcome, their ability to be successful past education period is a lot more higher, their chances at life. I know that obviously 50% of those who go into the prison system have the literacy level lower than 11 years old. So we know that education is key, keeping them in education is key. So that is definitely something, and I would love to work with you or any of the councillors, no matter what party you're in, just to really get that going. And I'd love to hear about any APs that you guys would like to highlight, just like yourself. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Anybody else have any more questions? Councillor Rich.
So I'm looking to page 59, section 36. So the finance report forecasts a 31.1 million overspend in the dedicated school fund, driven almost entirely by the high needs block. This is attributed to increased use in independent and non-mainstream specialist schools, which are forecast to overspend by 29 million. How is this department resolve its strategy and to support children with SEND in mainstream schools, which is the financial reality of this increase. And sustainable reliance of full cost external provision. Sorry, that's a bit tough question. I do apologise.
So I'll try and do this really conscious of time and really briefly, because again, it's a significant issue for the council. High needs spend, and high needs spend is to meet the growing population of young people with additional needs, and the budget isn't sufficient. So we currently are forecasting an overspend on our high needs block nationally by 2028. It's forecasted to be £8 billion pounds by 2028 nationally, just on this block of funding. So it's not unusual to see the pressure that we're seeing. In fact, we're kind of at the end of most authorities coming into that area of pressure. Huge amount of activity to try and get a grip on that. I think, as Councillor Green, you referenced earlier around, you know, it's not something we just as a local area leave and as a local authority leave. It is something that we're really focused on. Your question was about mainstream provision and trying to support that in light. When we did the budget setting, we've continued to increase our investment in mainstream inclusion. That's why we're not seeing pressure all over our budgets for high needs, because we think it's really important actually that we are supporting schools as best we can within our means. So we carry pressure on our external placements for young people with SEND and a couple of other areas at the moment, and we'll do all we can to address that. But we're not doing that at this stage at the cost of decreasing investment into mainstream schools and into meeting the needs at the earliest stage, because that will act to reduce the pressure later on, a little bit like the conversation around alternative provision. Actually, if there was no funding available for schools to work through innovative and creative ways to meet needs and reintegrate young people, our pressure would be even greater in some of those other areas. So we do try and do that, even though that's a new thing.
No, like you say, we maintain funding levels for the mainstream schools, and we actually put more money into AFM this year. Trying to support mainstream schools.
The temptation for some authorities would be to draw all that back, say if we've got some pressure here and we're taking all the funding, but actually there's a perverse incentive there, isn't there, around investing in early intervention and support that's needed to meet those needs.
Saves money in the long run.
Yeah, super. Okay, can I ask Martin to summarise, please?
Yeah, it's been quite it's been a really good discussion, quite a long discussion. So some of the things you might have forgotten we even spoke about at the beginning. Just another report on kind of like school attendance and young people not in educational training. That's at the December meeting. The committee did do a task and fish review on fostering recruitment and retention last year. That was at Cabinet in September, so I will circulate that to all members to have a look at. Just to note that we have got a review around kinship care coming up. I'm currently just starting to scope it, so I'll be in touch with officers about that soon. So that'll be happening hopefully before Christmas. And then I think we need to, between the chair and vice chair and the officers, we need to give some further consideration about how the committee can best look at issues around school suspensions.
Yeah, I think so. Super. Okay, can I confirm that everything's being captured from the members' point of view, and take a vote with a show of hands, please? Thank you. So, item number 8, work programme. So the purpose of the report is the Children's and Family Select Committee's work programme. The work programme, as attached, assists in the management of the committee's agenda, the scheduling of its business, and its forward plan. The work programme was developed through use of workshop session, where committee members and non-cabinet members had the opportunity to learn about the work and priorities of the department in advance of making suggestions for its items of inclusion. The work programme has been approved by the overview committee and will be reviewed regularly by the chairman and other committee at other committee meetings, where a member of the committee is available to suggest items for possible inclusion. If any members have any items that they feel that we should be including, i.e. Martin's just mentioned, or inclusion, please do not hesitate to contact myself or Martin via email. And yeah, I want to thank everybody for the valued input of this meeting. I think it's been really, really good. And the commitment and the question has been super. And I think on that note, I think I will close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Sorry, can I ask a question on?
Yes, yeah.
It's sort of on the work programme, because obviously I'm on the committee. But can I make a plea, please? Because I know that I'm not the only one that struggled hearing today. Okay. Because I keep getting the nods from people, and it's been really difficult. We've got Oak House, which has got all the technology there to have microphones and speakers, so everybody can hear what's happening, and we can actually engage properly as a committee. This has been really difficult for me to hear what's been going on, and I'm sure there's been some great stuff said over there, but I couldn't tell you what it is, and I don't think that's appropriate. So can I put a plea in, please?
You can.
Can we start having committee meetings where we've got the technology?
Okay, point taken. We can look at that.
Yes. But I was just going to, Councillor Girling beat me to it. I was going to make a very similar suggestion. And if it isn't at Oak House, I'd have the technology brought in here, because even my hearing's good, but sometimes I struggle with it, so might be.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. I think I've already done the maths. It's £146 per elected councillor to bring it back here. But that's something for the future. Lovely. On that note, I will close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you.